Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Red Light Sports Ramble. As always, my pleasure to be joined by my co-host, Evan Witalison. And I am so happy today, Evan. My phone finally came, and we can finally get the Red Light. We can get the Red Light Sports Ramble on every day now, which is great. And for for the listeners, there is now going to be dual episodes of Red Light Sports Ramble with Evan and myself. Every Tuesday, it's going to be Packer Recap. Every Thursday, we're going to do Twitter Talk. So Evan and I are both excited about being able to do multiple episodes of the Red Light Sports Ramble. And we're just going to get right into it, Evan. I'll tell you, Packer Nation right now, the emotions range. Depression, being scared. I mean, any emotion that goes with deflating a season, I think, is on Packers' mind right now. So let's get right into it, recap the game, and then we'll get into, of course, what's on everybody's mind, which is the injury to Aaron Rodgers and how do we move forward. But as usual, I'm going to let you recap the game yesterday.
Well, yesterday, as most Packer Nation saw, the Packers have the one devastating blow that, you and I talked about a few weeks ago, and it gets talked about all the time. What happens if Aaron Rodgers goes down? And, yesterday we got to see probably about 95% of a football game with the Packers having to do it without Aaron Rodgers. And I do have to say the team did put up a fight. Eddie Lacy had a monster day. He had 150 yards on 22 carries. One was a 56-yard run that he got pushed out at the 1-yard line, and then he ended up going in for the touchdown from there. And, I think I nailed it right on the head there when I said, I don't know if I said it on last week's Packer chat or, I know I said it to a couple people that Eddie Lacy should have 150 yards easy. And he did. Eddie Lacy ran well, and the Packers' offensive line blocked really well against, for run blocking. And special teams, got to give props to the Packers' special teams. They made a couple huge plays, which, you're going to go more into detail about one of the plays in a little bit. And then, between the running game and special teams, those two really stood out. But unfortunately, the Packers defense struggled for, multitude of reasons. One is that they just didn't tackle well, and they were letting receivers wide open in the middle of the field. And one of the things I did say last week, one thing that concerns me is the Packers playing against those bigger wide receivers, which they tend to struggle against that. And they struggled against that last night. Brandon Marshall, had a huge game. And Jeffrey didn't put up monster numbers, but he had a few, key catches that kept drives alive, including a touchdown. Those plays on defense really, really hurt Green Bay. And then I think as the game wound down towards the end, especially on that final drive, they just got tired and they couldn't make another play in order to get the Bears offense off the field, which they did a pretty good job of in the third quarter. So overall, it's kind of a disappointing loss, but I do have to compliment the fight that the Packers did show in that 27-20 loss. But obviously, as you said, all eyes are on the Aaron Rodgers situation.
Yeah, and just to get into what you were saying, it was a great fight. I thought they showed a lot of resistancy. They didn't give up. They could have folded when Rodgers went down. I mean, when Rodgers went down, I was thinking, oh my God, what is this going to be? That 31-10 score I predicted, I knew was out the window at that point. I was just.
Same with my score.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I was hoping it wasn't going to be 31-10 the other way.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was like, well, we can step up like we normally do, next man up, and we can get to the line, and we can, put on our straps and just go hard nosed, run the ball, see if Wallace can do enough to move the chains. Unfortunately, he couldn't move the chains. But let's get right into the Aaron Rodgers situation. I came to work, of course. I'm in Steeler Nation, as you know. And, of course, the first thing everybody says is, oh, I feel sorry for you. I'm like, why do you feel sorry for me? I mean, Aaron Rodgers is down. Yes, he's our quarterback, but we'll be fine. We are prepared. We will move on. then I got another comment, Evan. Did I think the hit was dirty? And my answer is no. They were playing.
It was a football hit.
They were playing football, and unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers landed wrong on his shoulder. There was nothing dirty about the play. He scrambled, got out of the pocket, and tried to make a play that he's done a million times, and he just landed wrong on his shoulder. So I don't want to hear anybody say it was a dirty hit, because it wasn't. The guy's playing
No, not at all.
The guy's playing with a full motor. He didn't hit him illegally. He wrapped him up and put him to the ground. That's what he's paid to do. So I have no harshness toward that defensive lineman who put Rodgers in the ground. It's football. You and I have talked about it. We had a segment on dirty hits, and it wasn't even close. So, but moving forward, when I look at it, Wallace went in, and it was very evident he hadn't had reps. I saw a lot of receivers open. He wasn't progressing down his reads. But what do you think the impact of Aaron Rodgers' injury is going to be? The latest news is 3 weeks at a minimum. But let our listeners fill them in a little bit more on what you and I talked about in our pre-chat. I liked what you were saying about how we move forward. So give some of these Packer fans, Evan, the reason for hope in the next 3 weeks.
Well, it's very unfortunate, let's say, first, regarding what happened to Rodgers. And like I said, and you said, we were talking about in the pre-chat, it's 3 weeks at the minimal. That means he won't be back any sooner, but unfortunately he could be back quite later. And you and I had talked about, what to go from here. And I think a lot of people don't realize how hard it is for a backup quarterback to come into the game off the bench, trying to run the game plan that was designed for your starter. Because that game plan, Mike McCarthy, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Clemens, and the quarterback coach escapes me at the moment. They sit down and they talk about what plays are you comfortable with, what plays aren't you comfortable with, and that game plan centered around Aaron Rodgers, his strengths, what he does well. And what Aaron Rodgers does well and what Seneca Wallace does well are polar opposites. Wallace is 5'11". He's not going to be a guy that steps up in the pocket. He's not going to. It's not his strength. And when we go moving forward right now, with Seneca Wallace as a starter, Mike McCarthy, Tom Clemens, and Seneca Wallace are now going to sit down and they're going to put together a game plan to Seneca Wallace's strengths, which is let's depend on the power running game with James Starks and Eddie Lacy. Give them probably a combined, I would say, 30 to 35 carries in the game combined, and run a lot of play action, bootlegs, move the pocket. Let's not have him just sit there in the pocket. Let's play to Seneca Wallace's strengths. And I think when you have Wallace having that whole week of practice preparing for the Eagles, his performance is going to only get better. Now, is he going to be like Matt Flynn, when he came in against New England in 2010 good, or Matt Flynn against Detroit a couple years ago good? No, he's probably not going to be quite that good. But one thing Seneca Wallace is going to have to do, and he did an okay job of it last night, other than Peppers' interception, protect the football, take what the defense gives you, and try to soften up the defense. And I think as McCarthy gets more comfortable with him under center, McCarthy might decide to take some of those shots down the field on the play action, bootleg action. So it's not all, it's going to be very difficult if it's only 3 weeks to get, 2 wins out of these 3, because it's Philadelphia, the Giants, and Minnesota, 3 teams that aren't very good, but it's still going to be, tough to win. But if they can just tread water for these 3 to 4 weeks without Rodgers, and if he's able to come back in 4 to 5 weeks, we should be in pretty good position since, like I said, McCarthy is going to, work to Wallace's strengths.
Well, I think you brought up a good point there, and I think it's what Seneca Wallace does well for us. When he did roll out and move the pocket, he looked a lot more comfortable. And
he had a very nice throw to Andrew Corliss on the run. Like, he booted out to his right. He put it in a tough spot. There was defenders around there, but that was a professional throw.
Yeah, like I said, when he rolled out and actually had that little bit of time, he can put the ball where he needs to put the ball. And like you said, I am not. I mean, it is a devastating blow. I mean, we lost probably. People can argue that Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL at this time, and it's a devastating blow. But like you said, look at the schedule: the Eagles, the Giants, and the Vikings. I think, Evan, we can win those three games. All three of them cannot stop the run. And if we can establish a running game and get a little play action, bootleg action with Seneca Wallace, I think we'll be okay. You say 2 out of 3. I think I have higher hopes. I am going into these weeks, Evan, thinking that we have a chance to win with Seneca Wallace because of the emergence of Eddie Lacy. And I'll tell you what, James Starks. That guy can go in there. We have a great 1-2 punch right now, in my opinion, at running back. We rushed for nearly 200 yards yesterday against the defense. And like you said, the game plan had to go out the window. Mike McCarthy is calling plays on the fly, and that's tough to do. So I am very optimistic. It's not like we're going in to the meat of the schedule playing against the playoff contending teams right now. Like you said, if we can tread the water and we can come away, even if we go 2-1, that puts us at 7-4. It's still in a good position because we only have one divisional game against the Vikings. And the great thing about that Viking game, Evan, it's at Lambeau.
Yeah.
It's not.
The week after the Viking game, it's at Detroit Thanksgiving Day.
Yep. And
I'll throw that one out there.
Now again, if Seneca Wallace is in that game, I'm really thinking at Detroit on Thanksgiving, that might be a Packers loss. But let's put our hope and be optimistic that Mr. Rodgers can come back in 3 weeks. And if he does, there's probably going to be a little bit of rust. But Aaron Rodgers is very much professional and can definitely move on. And I think we can win that game. So, moving forward, offensively, we had a little bit of disarray. And the question I'm going to pose to you is the offensive line and pass blocking. Was it exposed last night that we're not very good defending the pass, or pass blocking, I'm sorry? Or does Aaron Rodgers just make the deficiency look better because of getting rid of the ball sooner than Wallace and knowing how to step up in the pocket, like you said, because Wallace had a few batted balls last night. But the offensive line, we're run blocking very well, but does Rodgers make the deficiency look better than what it really is? Because when Wallace went in there, he had pressure immediately and was running for his life probably 50% of the time.
Yeah, that's a very, there's a lot of different avenues I can go with that question. Rodgers is a different quarterback from Seneca Wallace, and it kind of goes into, the offensive line is used to number 12 back there. They know where number 12 is going to be in the pocket. They know, where he's going to step up in the pocket. They know which direction he's going to roll out, and they know which launching point he wants to throw the football. Now, they have a guy in there they haven't worked with at all, now trying to run the offense. So I think there might have been a little bit of the uncertainty between the quarterback and the offensive line. And I just think the Bears did a really good job of pinning their ears back and getting after the quarterback. And they did sacrifice, some of those, really good runs by Starks and Lacy in order to do so. But that's textbook what you want to do. A fresh quarterback's in there, let's get after it. Because, again, the offensive line is not familiar with the backup quarterback. The receivers aren't familiar with them. The game plan is not necessarily working on their, the quarterback's strengths. So let's get after him. I think Rodgers obviously makes the offensive line look that much better. But I wouldn't necessarily say they were exposed per se. Obviously, Marshall Newhouse, when he got in there at right tackle, didn't play very well. There's a reason why Marshall Newhouse didn't beat out Don Barclay for the tackle spot. So hopefully TJ Lang's not out for too long. But, Derek Sherrod, they have to make a decision on him soon. So hopefully there's some hope there if, Lang does have to miss next week. Maybe they can activate Sherrod and make another corresponding roster move there. But I think the offensive line will be fine. I think, again, the offensive line just needs those reps with Wallace to get comfortable with Wallace. Because that offensive line, aside from Bakhtiari, has been playing with Aaron Rodgers for, last year Barclay started quite a few games. And, a core of the guys played a lot of games, the year and two prior. So they're used to Rodgers. So I think just additional reps with Wallace back there at quarterback, I think the offensive line will be fine.
Well, and I think, too, one of the things that we should mention is, and they didn't do a good job on television, T.J. Lang was out. He got knocked out with a concussion. And unless you actually paid attention to who was in the game, you wouldn't know that T.J. Lang was out until I think it was almost the third quarter when they said it. I noticed it because I noticed the move with Bakhtiari into the guard position.
Barclay?
Barclay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
When they moved that, so the shuffling of that offensive line might have had something to also do with the incohesive play last night because they lost T.J. Lang, who, in my opinion, doesn't get enough credit. The guy does a solid job. Everybody on the offensive line can get called for penalties at any time, so I'm not going to fall into this. Well, he gets all these penalties. The guy goes out there and plays tough. He run blocks well, pass protects well.
And he knows the system.
And he knows the system very well. You're right on with that point. So I think, like you said, once we get some reps in with Wallace, I think we move the pocket a little bit. We keep pounding the ball, which we've been doing a great job at. I think we'll be okay, and that's why I'm optimistic. The schedule is in our favor while Rodgers is out, and I think we're going to be okay there. Let's move now to the defensive side of the ball. When we look at it, I think the biggest thing last night, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the one thing I noticed is that we just offensively put our defense back on the field, and when we had to give the ball back, they got the ball at the 10-yard line with a good mass day punt. I'm thinking, here we go. Stop them on a 3-and-out or maybe one first down, and we get the ball back. The problem is, earlier in the quarter and earlier in the half, we're going 3-and-out, and like you had alluded to in our pre-chat, 1 for 8 on third down. We were just not letting our defense get a rest last night, and it showed on that last drive. So you can comment on that, but that's my take defensively last night, is that we just got tired out.
Yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it. And then when you're not getting much of a pass rush on there, and then, Tremont Williams played a horrible game last night on Marshall. Casey Hayward didn't play a good game at all. I was quite shocked to see the performance Casey Hayward had. I just think it all contributed to that defensive performance. Like when you lose a guy, when you lose your starting quarterback, especially if it's Rodgers, the only hope you have is your defense stepping up and, helping the offense out. And the defense did no favors to the offense either, because the defense were, they did early on in the half, were forcing the Bears to punt, but it was usually they got out to like the 35, the 40-yard line, the 50-yard line, then they had punts. So then the Packers had a long field to drive. So the defense didn't do the offense any favors, and the offense didn't do the defense any favors. Because obviously the offense is going to struggle in that situation, so the defense has to step up. And they had, receivers running wide open in zone coverage again, miscommunication in the secondary. A.J. Hawk played a bad game yesterday. Like, he did not do well whatsoever. He had a couple of nice coverages on the tight end late, Bennett, but overall he did not have a good game last night, covering Forte out of the backfield, covering Bennett, stopping the run. Hawk didn't play well. So you have a lot of your key guys on defense. All of a sudden, your quarterback goes down, and they're not playing well. And they're not getting off the field on third down. The Bears converted pretty well on third downs. And, the passes that the Bears were making, they did a lot of, sideline, 5-10 yards, then go for the sidelines. And I don't know why Sam Shields or Tremont Williams were not jumping that route. They did it over and over again. So it was just a number of things on the defense that hurt yesterday. And then in the fourth quarter, at the end there, the biggest being that they were tired out. So, like I said, the defense did the offense no favors and vice versa.
Yeah, I agree. The tackling was very poor last night. And, the one thing, and you and I were talking about this, and it sticks out in my mind because I think it could have been a turning point in the game. There was a time when they went for it on that 4th and inches, but I'm not so concerned about the 4th and inches. You should be able to make 4th and inches in the NFL. We almost stopped them, but It was the play before with Hayward going out there, and it was against Bennett, and he went right for whatever, if you want to call it, an attempted tackle. He didn't even slow him down. He made him put a move on. But if he slows him down, if he just tries to go in with a formed tackle, not to tackle him, but to hold him up and to just make him hesitate, the help would have came. Yeah. They would have tackled him for maybe 2 yards short of the first down. The Bears punt there. We get the ball back. I know we're having offensive woes, but I was thinking, right, at that point, I was all pumped up. I'm like, stop him here, and we can win this game. And we didn't stop him. And so I think that, again, attributes to maybe being tired, but the poor tackling, I mean, it was terrible. But you and I even talked that, Micah Hyde had shut down Bennett the whole game. So why wasn't he in the game at that time in a critical situation on a 3rd down? I mean, I don't know. I think that guy has earned the right to be on the field on 3rd down. He's gonna make rookie mistakes, but he's done nothing but prove that he's a good player. And I love how he hustles. Again, you gave props to the special teams. Hester didn't break a big return that really put us with our backs up against the wall. But the gutsy onside kick, the only reason we got the recovery is because of Micah Hyde. That ball was right there for the Bears to recover, and Micah Hyde pushed it away. The guy hustles. I love the guy, the way the guy plays. He plays with heart. He knows he's probably a little bit undersized, and he makes up for it with his heart. The guy deserves to be on the field, and so hopefully he gets some more playing time. Maybe there's something that we're not seeing that the coaches see, but from what I see as a fan, the guy deserves to be on the field, and he was shutting Bennett down. So if we have, and again, that's the play to me that was the changer of the game. That 3rd down play when it made it 4th and inches. Had they stopped them there, I think we get the ball back in pretty good field position, and at least we have an opportunity at that point to go in and get some points. So, with that said, Bud, let's look forward to the Eagles. And
one last comment I want to make about the game that I forgot to mention.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think one props we have to do, and it sucks being a Packer fan doing this, but you got to give props to Bears head coach Mark Trestman too.
Yeah.
The offensive plan he called, he kept down Capers guessing the entire game. First down, Capers beat him, but then Trestman, did the opposite of what Capers was anticipating. The chess match all night. And Trestman just happened to be a better chess player last night. I think he deserves a lot of credit too before he get started on the Eagles.
Yeah, if we're giving props to, we got to give some props to the offensive line of the Bears. I mean, we couldn't get pressure on McNown, and we made an average quarterback look like an all-pro again because we couldn't get pressure on him. I mean, his completion percentage, to be honest, as open as the receivers were, he should have completed about 80% of his passes. I mean,
thankfully he isn't the best quarterback in the world, or he would have.
Yeah, I mean. So to me, again, it proves that he's an average quarterback because his completion percentage was low. And I'll tell you what, when I was watching, and I don't always watch the ball, I'm always watching the routes sometimes, I think a lot of times he missed the open read. I mean, he had some opportunities there that could have went for a much bigger plays than what he actually went for. And so part of me is like, oh, man, we're lucky on that one. So we got to give props. I got to give props to the Bears. Even though Rodgers went down, they had a good game plan. Even had Rodgers been healthy, it would have been a lot closer game than you and I both thought.
Yeah, it would have been, but I think with Rodgers in there, Trestman has to change up his game plan.
Yep, I agree.
Rather than doing ball control, because with the way Eddie Lacy was running, with Rodgers in there, Lacey gets 200 yards easy.
Yeah.
With the way he was running.
Yeah.
Because, you know, by the end of the game, you know, the Bears are stacking 8, 9 guys in the box to slow down the running game.
Yeah.
With Aaron Rodgers back there, the Bears don't do that, and Lacey has wide open lanes to run.
Yeah.
And if the Bears are then playing catch up the entire game, you know, they start, you know, trying to do too much, and force McCown to do too much. I think McCown would have made those mistakes that he avoided last night. So I think it would have been a different game in that regards.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you because with Rodgers in there too, we probably at that point, we probably would have seen a lot more play action with Rodgers hitting the slot. We probably would have seen some more balls down the field, those 25, 30-yard passes. I mean, there's a lot of things we could have seen, a lot of things woulda, coulda, shouldas, you know, all those things. But, you know, with that said, Bud, you know, we had, and we do this all the time, we tried to cap it at 20 minutes. We're at 25 right now, which is great. I'm okay with that. But let's wrap it up with the Eagles. I mean, we're going to Philly. You know, and I'll start this off. I'm optimistic.
Is it at home or at Philly? I thought it was at home.
I believe this.
I think it's at home.
Let me take a quick look here. I thought
It's at Philly, at New York, and then at home again.
November 10th.
I think it's the Milwaukee game.
Oh yeah, it is. It's at Lambeau, so Philadelphia's coming here. My fault. My fault.
All right.
When I was looking at the schedule, I thought we had home away all the time. But that's my bad. I got it right up now. Gold package. I actually got it on the screen. You don't even know while I'm doing this. I'm playing the Packer. I'm on Packers.com, playing some video for our listeners so they can look at something while we're talking. But with Philadelphia coming in, as long as our defense can continue to stop the run, stop McCoy, I think we'll be okay. And offensively, I think if we talk about what we did, rolling the pocket with Wallace and pounding the ball with Lacey, I think we can win this game. I mean, I don't think we're going to do it in convincing fashion, but I believe that the Packers are going to win Sunday. I believe it's going to be a close game. Might come down to a touchdown or a field goal. Might be the old, you know, heart attack Pack coming back, but it's going to come down to the last quarter. I think it's going to be a close game. I'm calling the Packers 24-21 over the Eagles on Sunday.
You know, fortunately, and I pretty much agree with pretty much everything you said. You know, the Philadelphia Eagles defense is 32nd in the league in total defense. They are not good. They don't stop the run well at all, and they're not very good against the pass. And with that said, I don't expect the Packers to light them on fire, but I expect them to be able to move the ball a little more successfully than they did, last night. And with that being said about their defense, their offense is very Jekyll and Hyde. You know, they did a lot against the Raiders, but the 2 weeks prior, the offense did nothing. So a lot depends on what offense you see from the Eagles, and a lot of that's going to be dictated on what the Packers do defensively. You know, there's a very strong chance that Clay Matthews will be back, and I'm right along with you with the score, minus 23-20. I think Crosby nails a late field goal, and the defense gets a big stop in the end for the win.
Yeah, again, it's gonna be one of those that we got to just kind of hold our breath and see what happens. But I really believe that we can actually go out on Sunday, compete, and get the win. You know, I wouldn't be surprised though if it goes the other way and we lose by one score either. But I'm really believing that with a week of preparation with Seneca Wallace, that we can actually go out and have a good performance on Sunday. So any last comments to the listeners, Bud, as we're approaching 30 minutes? I mean, this is the longest episode that you and I have ever recorded.
And fingers crossed that it uploads.
Yeah, that it uploads. But I'll tell you what, like you and I said before you get into your last wrap-up, you and I could talk for another 2 hours about this. I mean, you and I could dissect the whole game from start to finish and probably talk 6-7 hours about the game. But any last comments you have for the listeners?
Last comment would be, first, our loyal listeners, thanks for listening to us ramble. Sure, it can probably, take time out of your day, but, just thanks for listening and giving us a listen. And, Packer fans, don't give up hope. Hope is not gone. the Packers are still talented in a lot of areas, and I think if we're able to, if it's a short-term injury for Rodgers, like the 3 to 5 week range, I think we can tread just enough water to, make a fight for the end for the playoffs. So just keep hopeful, keep positive, and I think that Packers have the chance to do something without with Wallace back there.
And again, you and I are the optimist people. That's why we do this. We're giving the Packer fans some hope. I'm right there with you. We just got to tread the water. We got to put our faith in Seneca Wallace. He's the man right now. I know Aaron Rodgers will be in his ear helping him prepare. I am optimistic. And like you, Evan, I want to thank all of our loyal listeners on Twitter. The one thing is, like I said, Thursday's Twitter Talk, and I'll actually be calling you from sunny California, bud. I have to travel out to Dana Point, California for a meeting. I'll be there Thursday through.
Don't you? I'm sitting here in rain right now. You're talking about being out in sunny California.
I may even publish that one on the beach, bud. Our resort. It's actually we're staying at the St. Regis Monarch Resort, and it's.
You really want me to hate you, don't you?
Oh yeah, you're gonna hate me, bud. I may broadcast that one from the sandy beach right on the ocean. But hey, I think the listeners might like that. But again, everyone that listens, we do thank you. Evan and I thoroughly enjoy the time that we do on the phone with you guys. We hope that you can take at least one thing away. We appreciate everything. And again, too, put your topics out so that Evan and I can talk on Thursday while I'm in sunny California and Evan's back in the rainy, cold Midwest. But
as much as I would love to talk about what's going on with the Giants and the Steelers. I'd much rather talk about what you guys want us to talk about.
Exactly. So we got some topics in store, but we always love the fan input, from Twitter. Give us your thoughts. We'll definitely touch on it. And I think Evan and I can go a little bit longer so we don't have to rush each of the topics. I think we'll limit it to 3 really good topics, get about 30 minutes in on Thursday. But with that said, everyone, we'll see you at the next red light. Thanks for tuning in.